You went to the US border with Mexico several times in light of the child separation policy under the past administration. And you've shared with us and with many other audiences that this experience led you to have a strong connection with these asylum seekers seeking refuge in America. And it'd be helpful, could you share more about what you saw and parallels that you felt with your own refugee experience?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, by the way, for having us. It's such an honor given my history with HIAS. So my family and I think you mentioned earlier, we tried to leave Iran for a long time, and it really was HIAS that came to our rescue and helped us go to Italy and eventually seek asylum. And it didn't really just stop there. HIAS met us in New York and helped us, find a place to stay and get into schools and really get back on our feet again. But coming to America, leaving your homeland is the scariest thing in the entire world. And I remember coming to America, and New York is scary. There's a lot of lights. There's a lot of people. You don't speak the language. It's loud. It's so foreign to you. And I remember, just holding onto my mom's hand and knowing that I was going to be okay, because no matter how scary this world was, I was entering it with my family. And it was this shared experience. And now as a mother, I had just had my second daughter when the child separation policy started. And to think about what these families have gone through, the months of agony and pain of just physically getting to our border, because we have always been this beacon of hope and promise for asylum, to come through what must have been the worst conditions at home and the worst conditions to physically get here. And to have someone take your child physically out of your hand. First of all, as a mother, and if you're at the grocery store and you don't know where your kid is for 1 second, that 1 second is 100 years. It is the worst experience that you will ever endure. To think that to the most vulnerable populations in the world, that we could take away their children from them, and we lost them. We didn't know where they were. We had no ability to track them. We had no policy in place. It was the most inhumane and cruel policy I had ever heard of in my life. And it triggered so much of that experience for me of coming to America. And I know Deborah and I will talk about this later, but even when we interviewed a Holocaust survivor, she said since the Holocaust, that was the most triggering experience she had ever had. Because it's unfathomable that we could do that to our most vulnerable populations. And I think there was I wanted to read this because I was so tortured by this. I actually got on a plane immediately, went to Tornillo, Texas, which was the site of the first camp, because I actually didn't believe it. I felt like I needed to go and see it. And once I saw it, it really changed kind of the rest of my life of just what am I doing? This problem is so much bigger than any of us can possibly understand. The system is so broken. The lack of compassion and empathy is so just strained that there's so much work to do. Obviously, I don't do anything without asking Deborah to do it with me. So we'll kind of talk about our journey together building I'm a Voter and the Dissenters. But, I think that I remember the Auschwitz Museum tweeted something, which I read right when this happened, and I had posted, and it was so important to me. And they said, when we look at Auschwitz, we see the end of the process. It is important to remember that the Holocaust actually did not start from gas chambers. This hatred gradually developed from words, stereotypes, and prejudice through legal exclusion, dehumanization, and escalating violence. And that to me was so important because I felt like people were missing the bigger picture, right? That if we, as America, whom my family held as the highest regard in the world, America saved our lives, America gave us the American dream. If we could do this, then what else we could do is really terrifying.